Alrighty, guys. Good evening. Happy fucking Monday. Tuesday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. Good evening, Guide, Martian, and Mix. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. Didn't stream last night, guys. It was Thanksgiving. The Sun Mun was Thanksgiving. I was talking with my brother for a prolonged period of time, so that happens. He's having some woman issues. Kind of putting it lightly, by the way. Good stuff. Mm-hmm. Ah, good. I was V's pretty good. Had two of them. Had one with my mom and one with my dad. Mom's side and my dad's side. Usual bit, but yeah, ended up being a little bit longer than normal. But otherwise, I had to wake up like 12 hours earlier than normal. So there's that. Yeah, I took a nap last night. I was like, I'm gonna stream, and then I ended up talking with my brother for a prolonged period of time. So he needed it. That's just the way it goes. As it turns out, guys, good. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening, though. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving if you celebrate, or if you didn't, just a good Sunday. But yeah. Tonight, guys, we're going to be doing more OW2s. I have some weird interactions with my mouse, as you guys know. I'm trying to figure that out. Had VBS off, so we turned VBS off, and it actually feels better, but my aim is worse. And this morning, guys, I played offline, and I had... It was... Look at this. I had like 12 games, and I lost 10 of the 12 games. It was pretty absurd. And a couple of them I did really good in, and then there's a boatload of fucking cheating too on top of it. Oh, it was terrible. It was fucking terrible. Like, it started out pretty good, and then it was just, it was alright for a bit, and then it's like something happened, you know, where it's talking about where my PC just like hiccups, and then I just do worse. I don't understand it. It's like fucking someone remotes into my PC or some stupid shit. And then all of a sudden I just get a lot worse at games, and it's fucking weird. 4410. Like, even a couple of these weren't that terrible. There were definitely people cheating in the matches that were just insta-killing me over and over and over again. And it happened for like a dozen matches. 3911, you can't really do much of anything. 4619, like even that, like my accuracy wasn't bad at all in this game, right? Yeah. 3817, direct hits are pretty good. 34-4. Yeah. 4320, this isn't even bad. G tuck ducking. No, I don't even know what that is. Is this something good? Make sure you're not trolling me. Oh, turk ducking. Ducking. Oh, is that where you stuff like a camel with a chicken and or a camel with a goat with this turkey in it? Turducken is a dish consisting of deboned chicken stuffed into a deboned duck, further stuffed into a deboned turkey. Outside the United States, Canada is known as three-bird roast. What's the one where they stuff a camel? Camel turducken is the largest dish in the world by stuffing one meat inside of another. A legendary technique is used in desserts in Arabia to coast of Malabar. Whole stuffed camel. Yeah, whole stuffed camel is a satirical folklore dish consisting of camel engastrated with sheep or lamb, in turn stuffed with other ingredients. Yeah. Amazing. I'll take your word for it. Ultimate turducken recipe. Yeah, just put more meat inside the meat, guys. You have meatception. It sounds more like a spiritual. Sounds like a spiritual journey, more so than one of practicality, where it actually exists. I didn't even know where to buy a camel. Yeah, no shit. I mean, in India, you can buy pretty much anything, so... Actually, I don't think they have camels in India. Egypt? I'm sure there's camels outside of Egypt. Yeah. I'll take your word for it. There's some really weird dishes out there, like blood sausage and such, and I'm just, I've had them before, and try anything once, sure. I think this is more of the spiritual experience of just having meatception and everyone going, oh my god, this is so amazing, more so than necessarily being a way of elevating the ingredients to make them better. Oh my god, you guys are watching food porn. Oh no. You're looking at what a bird looks like when they're making it. Oh jeez. Good. Turducken, guys. Anyways, let's take a look at the tubes. My Thanksgiving, or my Easter was pretty good. Time with the fam, hanging out, chilling. The usual. Uh-oh, Hardware Unbox is doubling down on their VRAM comparison. I mean, we could take a look at... Oh my god, there's a booty. It's almost like it was intentional. Take a look at Project Farm. That feels like a kind of lackluster video, if I do say so. Yeah, apparently they're coming back with Star Wars, by the way. There's going to be new Star Wars movies, and they're going to have Rey in it. Possibly one of the most hated characters in Star Wars, beyond Jar Jar, is Rey. Yeah. Oh, Silo. I think this is the Apple series, so it might be good, but it might also be kind of full of left-leaning political agenda, because as all Apple series kind of do. This guy deals with a lot of... It's kind of weird. He's the guy that flies paramotors. He deals with a lot of people trying to troll him, like calling cops on him and shit. Cops, FAA, I believe it is. Yeah, FAA, EPA, literally fucking anything. It's fucking weird because he's not really angry like your controversial or really anything at all. He just like flies around and people apparently hate him for it. Crazy. I used to watch his videos. They're kind of all the same though. After that point, I just kind of stopped. Hmm. Why has population been declining significantly with many moving to Texas, Oregon, and other states? Of course, because Hawaii is one of those places you don't want to live in. It's extremely expensive. So if you're a local that just works there, you have to be paid enough to work there, and most aren't. So it's like living in a big city. Why would you ever do that? If you can live somewhere else, you should. 60 minutes. James Webb Telescope sending you images capture the universe. Interesting. Nothing outside the ordinary. Where are the aliens? I mean, they're probably already here, but, you know, they aren't talking to us, or at least talking to the normal folks, to the plebs. Nuclear power plant killer, the Red Sea Dam. Oh yeah? Just put Red Sea dams everywhere, just like you can with nuclear power plants. He got it. The bald guy got it, guys. He got it. He got it. He doesn't, by the way. Let's take a look at Star Wars, and maybe we'll take a look at Project Farm. Stick them for Chinese spy balloon. No F-22s. The F-22s or F-35s that shot down spy balloon. I don't remember. Ah, Ray. Can't wait. Let's see. Actually, I got some comments. Oh my god. I made a comment on Project Farm. Not Project Farm, Rich Rebuilds, which we don't watch on the channel, mainly because I don't want to turn my channel into a car channel. Yeah.
Albert
There's some
Einstein once
drama going on
famously
there.
said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and
Ah.
expecting different results. And with that philosophical precept in mind, dear viewer.
By the way, I hate when people quote this because people oftentimes misuse it or misconstrue the quote due to the fact that they think it doesn't change when in fact stuff is still changing. So just because you're saying stuff doesn't change over and over again, you know, the ability of trying something over and over again, it's not necessarily true because time changes and people around you change and everything you're doing changes. The very fact that you're trying to reiterate the same experiment, unless it is literally inside of a vacuum chamber, metaphorical vacuum chamber, such as with computers, for instance, means it will not have the same result because we're squishy human meat bags that change, right? Yep, we fart, shit, fucking, you know, drool, do literally fucking everything, right? Eat. It changes. So I hate when people misuse that because they're like, Yeah, no, you're just doing the same thing over and over again, so obviously you're insane. And by the way, I don't think Einstein even said that, but putting that aside, I understand the interpretation of the quote and why people use it, but at the same time, it's also oftentimes misused, regardless of what's going on.
I invite you to consider the following thought experiments. Imagine for a moment that you're the head of a major movie studio that's still reeling from a disastrously mismanaged trilogy of movies whose final entry made less than half as much as the first film, and whose overwhelming failure relegated a once massively powerful and lucrative franchise into a bunch of irrelevant TV shows on a faltering streaming service.
Andor's
a trilogy
pretty good, though.
built around one of the blandest,
Andor, I'd say, is one of the best things that happened in Star
and
Wars.
completely overpowered wish fulfillment non-characters in cinematic history. And now that it's been several years since the last film came out, and you're under pressure to put something into the cinema that'll somehow resurrect the bloated, decaying corpse of this once popular franchise, what exactly would you do? Well, if your answer is to swallow your pride, take
Kylo
the
is
L
such a
and put
fucking
the failed
shitty
trilogy and its
antagonist.
wildly
He wasn't even an
unpopular
antagonist. He's
protagonist
just kind of like
behind you, then you're clearly
meddling,
not the president of
meddling
Lucasfilm.
child or
because
something.
just the other day at Star Wars Commiseration, Star Wars Celebration, we were treated to the news that literally nobody had been waiting for. Rey Palpatine, Rey Skywalker is back for another Star Wars movie.
I mean, the internet basically is doing this. And everyone's like, no, the Star Wars fans are just haters. Stupid shit like that. No.
Appreciate about the modern entertainment
Rey was a
industry
fucking terrible character, terrible actor
of
too.
Their own stupidity. I mean, if the plummeting box office revenue,
it's like
the
watching Rings
complete
of Power is
inertia
only
of
its movie.
merchandise sales, seriously, if a fucking non-verbal Green Goblin is more popular than the literal face of your franchise, you know you've got problems. The death spiral of the overpriced and overhyped.
Dude, like the Star Wars movies, everyone thought it was gonna be about fucking Flynn, right? And I mean, he fits kind of the minority demographic if that's what they're looking for. They thought it was gonna be about Flynn. I thought he was gonna be a fucking Jedi. I thought he was gonna be a major part of the movies. No, he's a bumbling idiot. He's like the equivalent of Jar Jar. What the fuck happened to Flynn? Why? They built up that film so much like it was going to be about Flynn, and it wasn't. What the fuck was that? Holy fuck. I was waiting for him to become a Jedi, at least, even if he's just kind of like a shitty Rey. It just never happened.
Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, and the fact that Star Wars Land itself looks like ground zero for a neutron bomb detonation isn't enough to clue you into the fact that Rey Skywalker is about as popular with general audiences as a treadmill at a body positivity meeting. Then I don't really know what to say, man. There's flogging a dead horse, and then they're standing over its decades-old grave shouting, "Go, boy!" The announcement actually came as part of 3 new movies that are apparently in production now, according to Kathleen Kennedy, a woman whose predictions for new Star Wars projects are about as accurate as the 15 videos a day that Mike Zero puts out. How's that trilogy coming along, Ryan? Anyway,
not
the
a
first
fan of.
film is being
By the way, I get it. Occasionally adding the laugh track in there. Yeah, maybe dial back on the laugh track clips a little bit. I get it. Laugh tracks make people laugh, but at the same time, yeah, you're trying to force it when the joke basically writes this. I think anyone that's watching this right now knows that these fucking movies are going to be terrible. There's no way. And the last 3 movies, they started out all right, and then they went really fucking bad. The last Star Wars movie was fucking horrible. It was absolutely terrible for multiple reasons. We've talked about it on the channel before.
Seen by James Mangold and will tell the tale of the first Jedi to wield the Force and harness it as a liberating power in an era of chaos and depression. You know, I'm gonna go out on a total limb here and predict that the first Jedi in this movie just so happens to be a woman, and the oppressing forces are represented almost exclusively by white men. I know, what can I say? I must be psychic or something. The other film's being helmed by Dave Filoni and is all about the escalating war between the Imperial Remnant and the fledgling New Republic, and apparently it's going to close out the interconnected stories told in The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and whatever other series they managed to shit out onto Disney Plus in the meantime. Here's a little hint for you, Dave. No one really cares about these characters on the small screen, where they can basically watch them for free anyway, so I really don't see how you expect to sell them in movie theaters. Although I have to admit, it is kind of funny to see see the reactions of people who actually believed the Disney Plus shows were somehow going to undo the events of the sequel trilogy. You were suckered in with a few rusty, shit-encrusted old keys that were polished up just enough to make them shine when they jangled them in front of you, and now you've been hooked. The truth is, the sequels aren't going anywhere. They will never be undone. Every ridiculous world-breaking moment, every unlikable arsehole character, every ludicrous writing choice is now immortalized, enshrined in Star Wars lore forever. Like a gigantic steaming post-Vindaloo turd that won't flush no matter how desperately you crank the handle. Which brings me at last to Rey Palpatine. Nah, fuck off technical problems, Logo. I'm calling her exactly what she is, because Rey is as much a Skywalker as I'm a Schwarzenegger. You can't just call yourself something and expect it to magically come true. Anyway, based on the announcement, Rey's movie is going to be directed by Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, who according to her Wikipedia page is a Pakistani journalist, filmmaker, and activist known for her work on films that highlight the inequality of women. Oh my goodness, it's a total mystery why Kathleen Kennedy would have put this specific woman in charge of a movie about her favourite fictional self-insert character. Go ahead, cast Brie Larson and Tessa Thompson in this movie too. Make my day, punk.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Anyway, the film takes place about 15 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker, which is probably a wise move in retrospect, considering we've already been waiting about 5 years for Rogue Squadron and Rian Johnson's trilogy. And it's going to feature Rey as a Jedi Master this time, because I guess when there's nobody around to tell you otherwise, you can basically promote yourself to whatever position you feel like. And that being the
She was basically a Jedi Master in the first films. That was one of the problems with Rey, if you guys didn't get that, was the very fact that she basically had no downside. She never really learned. She wasn't Luke, who became a Skywalker. She just was a Skywalker. There wasn't a growing arc where she just became more and more powerful. She was just powerful and defeated everyone. Fucking Kylo couldn't defeat her. The interactions they had, he basically just lost all the time. So, yeah. Yeah, she was a pre-made Jedi Master, and that's one of the problems with it's like the basic shonen formula, guys. You know, from Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, which is basically where a lot of the comic book stuff comes from too, is where you start out as a fledgling and you get more and more powerful as you grow and you train. You become better. The training arcs, right? Going inside the hyperbolic time chamber in Dragon Ball Z. You go in there, and then enemies defeat you, right? You learn from your mistakes. You try to get more powerful. You get better than them. It's circular, and it's recognizable because a lot of people recognize it, right? But it is basically built into stone because the way people function in life, they try to get better and better and, you know, supersede their former selves, right? Yeah. Rey didn't have a training arc. She was just built. She literally became everything, and not just in terms of, like, she didn't have, like, a ridiculous amount of power, like, Darth Vader, right? Like, she didn't have a ridiculous amount of power like Darth Vader, and she didn't know how to control it, and then she finally just let it, like, take over herself. She's just everything that's good, and then that was it. Yeah. Yeah, she was literally just fucking everything, and there's no downsides to her character like many female superheroes nowadays. There's just no downsides to who she was as a person. It wasn't like she became like she was filled with raw energy and she just let it take her over or something. Like even then, she didn't really like. It's like if you want to do that, then you have like One Punch Man, right? Where you have a character that's so insanely powerful that it basically the series is essentially a mockery, making fun of the fact that he is so powerful, right? It's a running joke. It's basically a running joke, which is one of the reasons I don't watch or like One Punch Man, is because it's just, that's it. One Punch Man, and then that's pretty much it. And you actually have more interest, like I watched I forgot the name of the sidekick, the cyborg guy, you have more interest watching him because he actually grows as a character, where Saitama, the main character is actually just One Punch Man. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's boring if they do it too much, like the hyperbolic time chamber, but at the same time, like Naruto had training arcs, and they weren't that long. They're a couple episodes, right? Like where you learned how to do the Rasengan and stuff like that, right? Where you're learning from your elders. Star Wars, where Luke fucking learned from Yoda. Where you went and trained Naboo, or I think it is, you know, swamps, and you learned from Yoda and learned about himself and not just about techniques, right? He learned how to master himself and control his anger and who he was as a person. You know, stuff you go through when you're growing up. It's just she's a god. Yeah, okay. And not in a good sense either. She just no faults, no downsides, knows what and puts guys in their place, not just from a physical standpoint, but also from a character standpoint. Just fucking guys are obviously just really bad at everything. Duh. Because we're guys. Shit. But yeah, this is like one of the problems people have with Rey is that they didn't build the character. She was already pre-built and then acted like she wasn't pre-built, but at the same time she was. It's dumb. This is like a shitty shonen, and it's fucking terrible. Yeah, I wouldn't say like training is the best part. The payoff from the training is the best part, right? When they get to show off their new techniques and how much more powerful they are, that's the real kicker, right? That's what makes the training worth it. Just like in real fucking life, when you learn and you try to get better at something, and then you gain skill sets and you gain abilities to do different things, and it makes you more powerful as a person. It's the same fucking shit. But in this movie, in the movies here, they just like why would we do that? Let's have some scenes where Flynn is just being a dumbass instead. That's great. Putting aside everyone wanted basically the new Jedi to be Flynn in the first place.
The case, you can now refer to me as God Emperor Drinker from now on. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally welcome this move because I can't wait to see Rey as a cowardly, embittered old hobo living alone on a windswept island, drinking green alien city milk and getting totally owned by a strong, empowered young man who teaches her to be a hero again.
That was a joke because Rey did that to Luke. If you guys missed that, that's another thing people hated about the movies. Rey basically did that to Luke, and Luke was just kind of. They did that to not Han, Obi-Wan. They did that to Obi-Wan too. They just made him into this. They tore down the character. They just made him into this laughing stock of a character that doesn't give a shit about himself or life or anything that's happening around him. And she didn't even learn anything from Luke. They didn't even do anything. Like there was a couple like slides of like them kind of like sparring or something, but she didn't even learn shit from him. Yeah, they tried to recreate the part with Yoda and Luke, only Luke was the new Yoda, only he didn't have anything to teach Rey. She taught him stuff. Yeah, and then we got to see Obi-Wan where the same shit happened, only he was getting bossed around by a 12-year-old girl. 10-year-old girl. Yeah, who is a bumbling idiot. And you're like, I'm all for empowered female characters, but maybe we could have some empowered male characters too, What a little bit of equality here. What if we have some empowered males? What if we do both? What if we have equality? And they're like, nope, that's not the way things work now.
Not looking so disgusted now, are you, love? Oh wait, sorry, I forgot that door can only ever swing one way in modern movies. Of course, Rey will be the greatest Jedi Master in all of Star Wars history, and everyone who meets her will bow down before her magnificence. And of course, there won't even be an antagonist in this film, because nobody in their right mind could ever possibly challenge someone as perfect as Rey. Although, I have to admit, it would make me laugh if they wheeled Palpatine out yet again, because it would fit in perfectly with Lucasfilm's complete and total lack of...
This is, by the way, one of the scenes in the third movie where I lost all faith in Star Wars when this happened. Where there's just this like CG Star Wars fleet that just popped out of fucking nowhere. They're like, hey guys, look at this new army we have. Wow, look at how many there are. Yeah, these guys that were built up over in movies just appeared out of nowhere. Oh boy. And you're like, wait, what? What the fuck was this?
Of imagination these days. Really though, when I think about the possible motivation for doggedly trying to make this character work in the face of financial ruin and sheer common sense, the one thing that I keep coming back to is...
I was actually just going to say hubris. Even before you said that, by the producer, or whatever her name is.
Kennedy's baby. Her ultimate vindication for all those coffees
she's
she had
tripling
to make
down
and all
at this
those
point.
Notes she had to take down
This
as a
isn't even a double down, this is a
in the
triple
early
down.
days. All those years of slowly working her way upwards, climbing the corporate ladder, being a woman in a man's worlds. Rey was the culmination of her own life experiences and worldview. The perfect idealized vision of how she saw herself. Strong, capable, resourceful, independent, supremely talented, and lacking all the flaws and weaknesses of her male counterparts. Better than them in every measurable way. And the fact that the character was met with almost universal scorn and derision from the Star Wars fanbase was a thorn in her side that she was determined to pull out, no matter how many movies and how much money it required. It's kind of funny when you realise just how petty and immature these titans of the movie industry actually are. But weirdly, the person I feel most sorry for here is Daisy Ridley, the face of Rey. She seems seems like a nice person who totally doesn't deserve the flack that she's probably taken because of this character, and to be fair, I can't really blame her for coming back to the role. Her career hasn't exactly been flying high since Rise of Skywalker.
This is the way it generally goes, guys, because people have one-hit wonders and then they're done. Like the actors from Game of Thrones, the actors from Harry Potter. It's the same shit. They had the one-hit wonder basically when they're kids. Or like any sitcoms from the 80s or 70s where you have kid actors. They have like this one role that they did really well, and then their games, they're basically over after that. So they have no choice but to come back. Yeah. Because it's a payday. It's essentially what it comes down to. It's a payday. And I'm sure after their first couple handful of movies where they made a shitload of money, they then started living outside of the scope of their income and then have to basically feed their income, and they just can't anymore, right? It's just over for the most part for them. So, yeah, like you can't blame her for coming back just so any actor can't, but at the same time, like she could have said no if she wanted to, but she didn't. So, yeah. Still
which
a choice.
Itself should be a telling indication of how popular those films were, and I can definitely see the appeal of that big old Disney paycheck. If it were me,
there's a
though,
lot
I'd
of
probably
actors that
follow
just
Adam
they don't have
Driver's
anything going
example
on.
and try to put
There's a lot of characters that look like Ray that are just semi-talented young women or men or really anything. Semi-talented young men and women that are trying to become actors, and that's it. That's all they have going for them. And after that point, what else do they have if they played a role and then they don't get anything else, and then they hope something else is coming along and they aren't doing commercials, so,
much distance between myself and my Star Wars character as humanly possible. Trust me, it'll work out better for you in the long term. All that being said though, I welcome this movie because I know it's going to provide enough fuel to launch 1,000 YouTube careers. And if everyone involved is determined to put themselves in the ring again, then damn man,
I don't think with the people that are directing this and producing this, I don't think there's any way this is going to be good. It could be good. I don't think there is a way that it's going to be good. I think this is a triple down on the first three movies, and I don't think this is going to turn into more than the first three movies. That's just the way it is, because who's controlling it and where we are now is this one. These movies came out like 6-7 years ago, right? When did the first Star Wars movies come out? The new movies, Star Wars movies. Yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah, 2019 was the last one. And because things have kind of changed now, the U.S. is much more politically charged and mainly left-leaning. Well, a lot of the younger generation is left-leaning. I think they expect this to do good. I don't think it is. I think there is a shift right now where this might have been, if this film came out probably 2 years ago, I think there would have been probably more support and it would have done better than the original three movies. But I think people are kind of used to what Marvel has done at this point, which is the same thing. Which is heavy left-leaning political agenda. Guys are all idiots, bumbling buffoons, idiots, or evil. And basically just tearing everything down and just, hey, look at all these cool heroes you literally don't give two shits about because they didn't have a backstory or really an upbringing at all. They didn't introduce the heroes. And then they just like pile drive them through this machine to make them into the primary cast. And the movies weren't good. Even if you cared about the actors, the movies weren't even good. So, yeah, I think this is basically, it's the same thing. They have ChatGPT just write the fucking story for them, and we're going to have worse movies than these three. Rogue One was kind of an outsider. This was alright. Rogue One was alright, but these three were terrible, and it got progressively worse as things progressed, or went through it. And I remember, like, watching the first trailer and thinking Flynn was going to be the fucking new Jedi, and he wasn't. I remember that was, and I went to the movies thinking Flynn was going to be the Jedi, and he wasn't. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Yeah. There's always OnlyFans. Yeah, they'd never stoop that low, right? Yeah, but yeah, I honestly, I think they're going to be worse. They're going to be worse than the original three new movies. That's the way it's going to be. And Andor kind of squeaked through the cracks because I think no one was paying attention to it, and it turned into something good because no one was paying attention to it. These new movies are going to be a triple down of these three movies, and they're going to be bad. And I have no idea how you can be. I don't understand how you could be in a position that these directors and producers are and produce things that are so horrible and then get more jobs. Like how they keep getting hired or are able to still make movies. Like, is there no board or like people that hired them in the first place are feeding them money? Like how are they still being capable of making this shit? I don't know. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be absolutely terrible.
The God Emperor Drinker is more than happy to go one more rounds. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Yeah, crazy shit. That's where we're at, though. I think it's going to take probably 3 big bankrupt movies to make a shift. It's already starting to shift. Things are already starting to shift. Like DC starting to cancel movies and we're just airing out the laundry sort of thing. But it's going to take a little bit before those are completely gone. Andor, by the way, it was a complete surprise, which once again I think is part of why it did so well. Andor is probably one of the best Star Wars franchises I've seen. And because it may be even better than the original 3 movies, because it takes it as an antagonist, and there isn't really a strong political agenda in it. There's a little bit in there, like they still have, your LGBT characters in there. Just they threw them in, but it's not hyper focused on them, so it doesn't really even matter that much, which is the way it should be, because it's an action movie, right? It's an action series where you're not really focusing on a romance because people aren't really interested in the romance. But I don't know. I guess that's what people want, so. Anyways, like it doesn't completely focus on that. It's mainly about the storytelling, it's about the characters, character drive between them, and basically they got around the whole kind of men are always wrong when it comes to having a confrontation with a woman, if it's kind of like battle of wits, or knowing where to go with things. I think like they got around that by just not having the characters confront each other, by not having like a male and a female character argue with each other. It's usually a male arguing with another male or a female arguing with another female, and that was it. Yeah, so you just get around the whole women are always right by just not having them argue with guys. What the fuck is this? It's some sort of like elementary school kind of logic shit. It's fucking weird. But anyways, Andor was very good. If you guys haven't watched it, I'd highly recommend watching it. It is slow, so if you like Breaking Bad, you will enjoy it. But if you didn't like Breaking Bad because you thought it was a slow series and you didn't really like the character drive, you're not going to like it. But Andor, phenomenal series. It's very, very good. Probably one of the best series in the last decade. And it has fast-paced scenes. The fucking prison arc was pretty fucking good, in my personal opinion. It was very, very good. And like there's characters in there that don't even have a lot of meaning that you still end up caring about. Like the old guy in the prison sequence. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. But yeah, kind of crazy. And it was actually legitimately very good. And there's apparently going to be 2 more seasons of it. And then this can be done, so. I heard that, Martian. We did not watch The Critical Drinker on the D&D movie, and because I want to watch it.
You know,
we aren't going to watch that because it actually sounded pretty good. I'm going to take a peek at that when it gets released to video. I'm not going to watch it in the theater. I'll watch it on Blu-ray, though. Or streaming. Yeah. I'll take a look at that. It's starting to crack. Like the whole drive, it basically left-leaning political agenda, as we talked about before. Because I don't want to call it woke bullshit, because now woke is being perpetuated, like woke being evil is being perpetuated by hard right, and I do not like aligning with extreme sides because it makes you look bad as a person. It's both sides. I think when you get to the extremes on both sides, where people are so righteously involved in whatever's going on that they think that they're, no matter what, they're always right, or whatever they believe in is right. Yeah, it's like religious fervor. It's like religious fervor. When you get past like moderate on both sides of the scale, it gets fucking weird. And both sides are crazy. But, anyways. Starting to crack, though. There's a lot of, sadly, I used to be really into superhero movies, comic books, and stuff like that. And past 2010, the more we got into like the 20s, things got like, there's an entirely new bunch of movies from Marvel that people just don't give a shit about. Like the Eternals, for instance, which was supposed to be like the start of Avengers, and just no one gives 2 shits about. Well, there's someone that gives a shit about it, but most people don't give 2 shits about it. And then there's a new Doctor Strange movie or whatever it was that's supposed to kick off the new Phase 4 or something, Phase 5. Yeah, yeah, I didn't know. I don't think anyone fucking knew. They don't even care about what they're making. It's starting to crack. We still have some good series that are coming out. A lot of the stuff's got got canceled though. Not politically canceled or socially canceled, but rather just the series got canceled. Or it got ruined, like The Expanse was very good, and then Amazon got its bloody claws on it and just tore that to shreds. It basically tore down all the male cast in the series, and it was fucking terrible. The ending of The Expanse, it was started out so good, and then Amazon got a hold of it, and it just went to shit. And instead of caring about like this geopolitical relationship between the Belt, Mars, and Earth, you just have, hey, look, let's look at the interpersonal relationships of these characters and how women are always looked down upon. And you're like, wait, what? We're like, it's like 200 years in the future or something, and they're, yeah, just turned into a feminist pep rally, and you're just like, okay, yep, all right. And Mars, the war between Mars or the tensions between Mars and Earth and the Belt, just, hey, look, we don't care about this anymore. Let's talk about interpersonal relationships in Naomi's family, which is one of the Belters. Let's talk about how she's dealing with her family. Wow. What about the aliens and the destruction of the universe? No, we don't care about that anymore. Let's talk about feelings. And you're like, wait, what? What series am I watching anymore? We talked extensively about that. I wasn't as angry about that as I was about Season 8 of Game of Thrones, but at this point, you just start to expect that to happen, and Amazon literally just bent The Expanse over and fucked it in the ass. And then the series died because no one watched it because, surprise, it was terrible. Yeah, and you saw that coming in Season 4, I think it was, when Amazon started pumping stuff out, and Season 5 was even worse. How many seasons were there? I think Season 3 was the last one that Sci-Fi did. Based on books. And obviously the interpretation, 6 seasons. Yeah, Season 4, I think, is when it started with Amazon. Yeah, Season 4, you could tell stuff was kind of going weird. Season 5 is when it just went to shit. And then Season 6 was, hey, let's... Oh, when did they jettison Alex? Spoilers, by the way, but he basically had sexual harassment allegations made against him, and they basically just jettisoned his fucking character into space. Like, literally, end of the season, they just jettisoned him into fucking space. like, I understand you can't have the same actor anymore, but they could have just replaced the actor, and I think people would have understood. Because he exists in the books. He still exists in the books. And they just fucking jettisoned him. Not literally, he had a heart attack. It's basically the same thing as putting him in a fucking locker, or in an airlock, and just ejecting him into space. Oh, it was so bad. He was a major pivotal actor in the series, in the books, in the seasons, and they just fucking killed him off. Like what the fuck is wrong with you? Holy shit, guys. Yeah. I mean, if you watch The Expanse, you know what I'm talking about. The first couple seasons of The Expanse are actually really good. And then you'll understand also why I'm talking the way I am about Season 5 and 6, because you also know what... They basically have nothing about the aliens anymore. The ancient species, the aliens, the incoming, the usual space opera candidates, the coming doom. No, let's talk about Naomi's fucking family life for fucking 3 seasons, and then watch her cry for an entire episode. Which, I'm not joking about, they literally did when she was trapped on the ship. You get to watch Naomi's heartfelt time on the ship where she cried to herself constantly. It got old so fucking fast. Yeah, it was in Season 5 or 6, I don't remember. But they had to show how she was a strong female spacewoman, and how she didn't need no man to help her save humanity, sort of shit. Which, by the way, the main actor that the series is supposed to all be about is this guy right here. And then they made Season 6 about her. For some reason. I can't figure out why. Yeah, well, I mean, just watch it until the second half. You don't need to watch the second half. Like, Babylon 5 legitimately starts out pretty good. The first season of Babylon 5 is... bleh. The first captain is actually pretty terrible. Because he always he has this smile, but he doesn't... It's like one of those really fake car salesman smiles. Yeah, he goes, yeah, how's it going? Like he's always fucking trying to be happy when he really isn't, and it got really old. Second captain, however, is fucking amazing. And Babylon 5 is actually a very good series. The CG is dated at this point, for many reasons. It actually needs to be remade. I think a remake of Babylon 5 would be very good, like they did with Battlestar Galactica. I think it could be phenomenal. Because what was actually really good about Babylon 5 is, it's a 90s series, is the interactions between the characters. They did a very, very, very good job. Because it's about, not dictatorship, but, what is it called? Where you have delegates that interact with each other to bring, peace. Peace delegates, right? It's about the relationships between peace delegates, between races that are at ends with each other, and they start doing some really scummy shit, and these guys have to interact with each other and try and kind of, lead their people or suggest the people, balance things out, right? They can't always do it, and it hurts their personal relationships as well as their public image, and there's only so much they can do. I thought it was really fucking well written, in my personal opinion. That was back when apparently they actually wrote series. But there's the moral that I was getting to here, guys, is Babylon 5 had a spin-off series called The Crusade, I believe it is, which is about a crusader ship. Five seasons. The first season is not very good, as I mentioned. What was the spin-off series called? Anyways, the spin-off series I didn't watch, and you're not supposed to watch it. It's actually really terrible. Crusade. Yeah, this guy, you're not supposed to watch it. It's a spin-off series and it really makes you want to watch it, but you just don't watch it. Just like if you're going to watch Game of Thrones, very good series. Season 7, still pretty good. Season 8, do not watch. And you can choose to watch it, but at the end of it, don't say I didn't tell you so. So, yeah. You're actually better off just not even watching Season 7, or Season 8, excuse me. And I know a lot of people are like, no, I'm sure it's pretty good. You just, you're just being sensationalist here, but no, it's not. It's not very good. Don't watch it. Yeah. Anyways, Crusade. Thought my monitor was too bright. Babylon 5 Wars, the game, collectible cards, role-playing game, a call to arms. Oh my god, merchandise and merchandise and merchandising. All right, let's take a peek here. We'll watch maybe one more, and then we'll move along. I guess maybe we'll take a look at Project Farm. This doesn't look all that interesting. The HOA? Ooh, Homeowner Association? We got to catch up on John Oliver, too. There's a pool guy, too. We haven't been keeping up with pool guy. Silo might be interesting. I was looking at this. It's basically a movie. It's a TV series essentially about Fallout. Fallout Shelter. It's basically a series about this, which it sounds like it could be pretty good because you basically have to exist inside of ecosystem. 100 was basically this, too. But 100 was basically written about kids, and that kind of ruined things because it's basically Lord of the Flies.
What if what we see is not what's out there?
Also reminded me of Snowpiercer. But it's from Apple, so... Like, For All Mankind I thought was going to be pretty good, and the premise For All Mankind sounded really good. And then they just fucking wrecked it with left-leaning political agendas, so...
We do not know who built the silo. And why we are underground.
Get wrecked, Wonton.
We only know.
Where are those going?
Outside our sanctuary is death.
If you boil the pact down to one rule.
Is it Donald Glover?
Do not say you want to go outside.
I can't watch anything Donald Glover does after Community. Community is a good, great series, but he always just seems like a comedian after I see him. No, it's not Donald Glover.
Don't you ever think about the world beyond the silo?
What if what we see is not what's out there?
Also, the idea, the premise here reminds me of
Someone who has a theory about the silo.
Logan's Run, which is an old sci-fi series. It was an old sci-fi series about basically people that were meat storage, essentially organ storage for other people, and they're clones, and they eventually die. What was it, cleansing or whatever, when they're 40? But basically they're supposed to ascend, essentially they just died.
Are you willing to give everything you have for this?
Oh no!
Clock is running. There isn't much time left.
This is a threat to order in the silo.
I don't care about order. What about finding out the truth?
Some mysteries are best left unsolved.
Correct. But anyways, there was a couple. The 100 is basically another series. It's essentially Lord of the Flies or something a lot like Lost. The 100 is a TV series about 100 kids that are sent down to Earth after a nuclear apocalypse happened. They're living in space. And it's actually a relatively good series. It kind of just keeps throwing curveballs at you, and at the end of it, they don't even know what the fuck they're doing at the end of it. But up until that point, it's actually pretty good, in my opinion. It reminds me a lot of Lost. It's a long-running series. Obviously, it doesn't air anymore. But I kind of got tired of the kids the kids are always in control, and they always generally do not make the right decision. But at least you'll like a lot of tribal behavior, Lord of the Flies scenarios where basically it's a bunch of kids having a pissing contest with each other. It's about stuff that doesn't really matter when other things do matter. The adults are oftentimes just casting it back, like despite the fact that they never would be in real life, right? It's not something where they just decide to, hey, we're gonna let the kids completely take over and do whatever they want, and then do a bunch of stupid stuff. But once I'd like to see one of these where the outside world is as toxic and dangerous as they say. Could be good, but once again, Apple TV, they don't, yeah, left-leaning political agenda, pretty hardcore, and then they still don't make something that's all that great anyways. But maybe it'll be good. I'll probably watch it because it seems like it might be good. Yeah. Anyways, I guess we'll pay tribute to Project Farm. I do enjoy Project Farm's videos.
When it's time to change the motor oil in your vehicle, you've probably noticed that some motor oils claim to last 5,000 miles, others 10,000, and then 20,000. Is there really a big difference? Well, let's find out. We'll see which oil flows best when the oil is extremely cold. Then we'll see which oil offers the best protection against engine wear. We'll compare the oils to see which is best at resisting thermal breakdown and evaporation. Then we'll look at the oil test report for each of the oils to see how they compare. Fuel contamination in the motor oil is very common in modern vehicles, so we'll see how the best motor oil performs when it becomes contaminated with fuel. Let's go ahead and send off the oil to an oil testing lab. The oil lab will provide us a lot of great information regarding the oil's anti-wear additive package, detergent and dispersant content, as well as the oil's total base number or the ability of the oil to resist becoming acidic over time. By the way, I always shake oil containers before sending off oil samples for testing, since part of the oil additive package may actually fall.
Severance is an American science fiction psychological thriller. I'm not usually a big fan of thrillers. Thrillers are usually one step away from just being horror, and they're just like, hey, let's throw twists at you. A bunch of actors. The plot follows Mark Scott, an employee in Lumen Industries who agrees to severance program in which his non-work memories are separated from his work memories. The series premiered on Apple TV. Creates an audience praise cinematography and production design. Well, this doesn't tell you much of anything about the series. A biotechnologically corporation, Lumen Industries, uses mind-wipe medical procedures to call severance to separate his consciousness of their employees between their lives at work and outside of it. Due to the increasingly divergent life experiences, the consciousness of the employees in the workplace, dubbed innies, gradually split from their consciousness outside of it, to the point at which they become distinct personalities with their own agendas. One severed employee gradually uncovers a web of conspiracy at Lumen, which mysterious project the employees are unknowingly working on. Airing. Speaking, you remember I was talking about my fucking computer randomly freezing and then my mouse going wonky? That just happened. out of nowhere. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I wouldn't really put even faith in who directs it or produces it. At this point, it seems like if there is a corporation that's in charge of something in the background, like making things kind of act a certain way, they generally get their way. Unless it's some prolific,
out of suspension and settle up
really prolific director or
synthetic
producer.
Oil is supposed to flow better compared to conventional oil or a synthetic blend when it's cold, so that moving parts begin getting lubricated sooner. I'll go ahead and place a new oil in a freezer that's set to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll leave the oil in the freezer for 24 hours. The blue plastic oil containers look exactly the same and probably came
Sounds
from the
like it
same
might be all
factory.
right, though.
Are they really any different? Let's first compare the oil that's supposed to last for 5,000 miles against the oil that's supposed to last for 10,000 miles.
Synthetic blend includes normal oil.
I have,
I'd highly suggest just going to full synthetic and just don't go back. Full synthetic really doesn't really cost that much more.
Costs $4 more for a 5-quart container. The SuperTech 5,000 mile oil is a synthetic blend. Instead of being a synthetic blend, the 10,000 mile is a full synthetic. Both oils are API SP and ILSAC GF6A. If you drive GM vehicles, the 5,000 mile oil does not have the DEXO certification, but the 1000 mile oil does.
There's some posts online that once you go to a synthetic, you're not supposed to go back to normal oil, mind you. So just keep that in mind. I've never done that, but
so let's see how the oils stack up against each other in the first test. Let's first compare the 5,000
very fact that synthetic blends exist probably says it's not true.
200 grams of oil into
but
each of the oil containers.
Who knows?
Then I'll crank up the heat to around 440 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. I'll rotate the oil containers every 10 minutes just in case one burner is hotter than the other. It's very close, but there does seem to be more vapor coming out of the synthetic blend oil container. The test for this is a NOAC volatility test. It's an ASTM test which exposes oil to a lot more heat.
Yeah, I don't completely buy that.
Engine operating conditions around the upper piston ring area.
There's basically synthetic blends, so that's a blend of both oils.
At the end of this test, we'll find out how much evaporation
so
occurred
if those
with each oil.
exist,
Then we'll use the
logic
new
would
oil for
dictate that
additional
you
testing to
can
see
go
which oil
between
is
the two, and it
best.
really
Once
doesn't
oil is
matter.
cooled
Obviously, you
off,
want to
we'll
drain it
use
and
the
make sure the old
containers to
oil
see
is
how much
completely
evaporative
gone before you
loss
put a
occurred
new
with
oil
each
in.
oil. The 5,000 mile oil container started out weighing 394.59 grams, and it now weighs 377.58, a loss of 17.01 grams. The 10,000 mile oil container started out weighing 429.82 grams, and it now weighs 415.07, a loss of 14.75 grams. So the 10,000 mile oil did a lot better by experiencing about 14% less thermal evaporation than the 5,000 mile oil. Let's test the lubricity or the film strength of the SuperTech 5,000 mile oil against the 10,000 mile. We'll begin by adding 40 milliliters of oil that's been exposed to heat into the test cups. I'll coat the test wheel and the test pin in motor oil to avoid damage from a dry start. After the test, we'll compare the size of the wear scars of the bearings to determine which oil provides the best film strength. While this test doesn't simulate engine operating conditions perfectly, it'll definitely provide us with some great information. Between each test, I'll use brake parts cleaner to clean the test equipment and then use sandpaper to resurface the test wheel. Let's test a full synthetic 10,000 mile oil next. There definitely seems to be less friction with the 10,000 mile oil. The watt meter is showing less energy usage and the number is dropping quickly. And the test is finished, so let's go ahead and compare the size of the wear scar for each oil. I used the microscope with my calipers to get an accurate measurement. And the test pin for
By the way,
10,000
I think we're
mile
going to start
oil is
playing
4%
comp
smaller wear scar
in
than the
Overwatch,
5,000
maybe it's the
mile
next
oil.
season.
So the
Not going to do it
10,000
on
mile
day
full
one, which is
synthetic
tomorrow,
oil
mind you.
does indeed provide better wear protection. Before we compare the high mileage 10,000 oil
Which is not on
to
day
the
one.
20,000 mile oil, let's first see how the oils flow at minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And the oils are arranged from the lowest rated miles to the highest, with 5,000 on the left and 20,000 on the right. And it's very close, but the 10,000 mile high mileage oil barely edges out the 10,000 mile full synthetic. And the full synthetic is not giving up, and the 10,000 mile oil takes the lead from the high mileage oil. And the 5,000 and the 20,000 mile oils are very close to the same speed, and both are trailing the 10,000 mile oils. And all the oils are gaining speed as they head down the track, but the 10,000 mile oil is really gaining momentum. And it's the 10,000 mile oil for the win, followed by the high mileage oil. And the most expensive oil, the 20,000 mile oil.
If you guys think this is just kind of a joke sort of shit going on here, it's not really. So this is supposed to simulate, essentially, if you live in a cold climate, which I do, if you live up north, where I do, when you have a cold start, your engine is obviously going to be very, very cold, and it's going to take a while for the fluid basically to start to flow in the engine and start coating everything properly. So in general, you want to have an oil that flows faster, but also still provides lubrication, because if it's like water, it's going to flow probably, well, putting aside water is going to freeze and explode, but if it flows better, assuming water doesn't freeze, if it flows better, it's going to coat everything better, but at the same time, it doesn't provide lubricity or prevent friction. So Yeah, this actually really matters. As we watch Project Farm, this is kind of a more boring one because it's basically about oil, but everyone has oil in their vehicle, so at the end of the day, this still applies to you. Even if you're like, I don't fucking care about oil on a Project Farm, it still does, because you probably have a vehicle. Most people in the US have a vehicle, so it's, in my personal opinion, it's worth getting changed to synthetic, personally. But to each their own. There's a lot of people like, no, normal oil is just as good as long as you change it just as often. I don't believe that, but once again, to each their own.
Ahead of the synthetic blend. What a race! Let's compare the SuperTech high mileage 10,000 oil against a 20,000 for a 5-quart.
I've never used 20. I used 10 mobile one.
Compared to around
10K mobile one.
20,000 mile oil.
And I believe I changed it 8,000.
And ILSAC rating as the two previous oils. And both of these oils also have the same DEXO certification. And SuperTech gave the 20,000 mile oil more stars for wear protection.
Ooh,
and
more stars.
Sludge. Let's compare
but the whole reason, he still reads it off because there's some people that just review it, just like with routers. Like if you try to look for a CNET, like a review for a router, like on CNET, it's like, hey, we plugged in the router. It gets full speed off of speedtest.net. That means it's a good router. And then they go and walk across their apartment and see how many bars they get. Yeah. That's what I basically call back-of-the-box testing, which is they just look at the specs on the back of the box and check the box. Like, this is where you actually use testing with metrics and methodology to figure out whether or not the back of the box is correct, right? Because that matters. You have to figure out whether or not those stars mean shit. And that's the whole reason you have scientific testing, right? Using the scientific method. What's the name for it? Not qualitative, quantitative testing? Quantitative test is all about objectivity and group behavior. It doesn't concern with individual thoughts of participants, forsaking the context around user action. This is based quantitative and qualitative is basically in regards to human behavior. So maybe not that.
Mileage against a 20,000 mile oil. And both oils seem to be putting off about the same amount of vapor, and it's very close. And the oil was rotated every 10 minutes for 2 hours, and the 2 hours is finally up. With 200 grams of oil in the container, the high mileage oil started out at 404.69 grams, and it now weighs 390.14, a loss of 14.55 grams. And the oil container with the 20,000 mile oil started out at 411 grams, and it now weighs 396.36, a loss of 14.64. So both 10,000 mile oils and the 20,000 mile oil all performed very close to the same. So the base oil is either the same or very similar for all three full synthetics. Before we kick off the lubricity test, let's first go ahead and place the cooked oils in the freezer. Let's go ahead and compare the film strength of the high mileage oil against the 20,000 mile oil. And the watt meter seems very close to the same as it did with the 10,000 mile full synthetic. If there's a lot of wear taking place, I can sometimes hear the difference, but this time the amount of sound seems to be about the same. And the last oil to test for wear resistance is the 20,000 mile oil. And the 20,000 mile oil seems to be performing about the same as the regular full.
Once again, a watt meter is almost kind of predictive, because usually if there's more friction, it will cause the motor basically to use more wattage because it takes more wattage to turn things, right? So you can usually tell with the watt meter whether or not it's actually the oil sucks.
Synthetic and the high mileage 10,000 mile oils. Time is up, so let's take a closer look at each of the test pins under a microscope. And the size of the wear scars are almost the same, but the 20,000 mile oil has less than a 1% advantage. Oil is cheap and engines are expensive, but the oil that has the best wear resistance is a 20,000 mile oil. However, it only performed about 1% better than the less expensive high mileage oil and not that much better than the regular full synthetic.
It really seems like a 10K high mileage is where you want to be.
Oil barely edges out the 20,000 mile oil at 14.55 grams compared to 14.64. And all three full synthetics perform quite a bit better than the synthetic blend, which experienced 17.01 grams.
Really should just have normal oil in here as a baseline.
Impacted the cold oil flow of the oils. And the order of the oils is once again the same, with the 5,000 mile oil
used
in
oils?
the left lane and the 20,000 mile all the way to the right. And this
third
time,
place.
the 10,000 mile full synthetic is the first one out of the gate and the first one on the track, but the high mileage oil is in a very close second. Once again, the synthetic
is
blend
high mileage
and the
going to take it,
20,000 mile
guys?
oils are performing very close to the same rate of speed. And the 10,000 mile oil is once again gaining momentum on the competition. And it's the 10,000-mile full synthetic crossing the finish line first, but the high-mileage oil is in a close second. And the 20,000-mile oil just finished in third, barely edging out the synthetic blend. If you want to see the original oil analysis results, I'll leave a link in the video description. Sometimes brand new motor oils have trace levels of aluminum, iron, or other wear metals. However, all 4 SuperTech oils look very good without any wear metals in the new oil samples. Barium, boron, calcium, and magnesium are detergents and dispersants. If you add the totals for each type of detergent and dispersant, the 10,000-mile oil actually has a little bit more than a 20,000-mile oil, but it's very close. So it begs the question, why does the SuperTech 20,000-mile oil receive 2 extra stars over the 10,000-mile oil for preventing sludge and harmful deposits when
people are willing to pay more money for it?
Dispersant content. The high-mileage oil and the 20,000 are almost the same. And all 3 full synthetics offer about 400 parts per million more detergent dispersant content compared to the 5,000-mile oil. Anti-wear additives are incredibly important for engine life and performance.
Oh, but
and the 20,000-mile oil has a total of
good for all metals, usually good for all
1,639
metals.
parts per million. The high-mileage oil isn't too far behind at 1,546. The 10,000-mile is at 1,515, and the 5,000-mile oil is at 1,280. So this time, SuperTech star rating system aligns with the actual oil lab test results. Even though both 10,000-mile oils have a higher viscosity at a high temperature, they also float better when extremely cold. The total base number is the oil's ability to neutralize acids. And the high-mileage oil has the best TBN at 6.8, and the 10,000-mile full synthetic 6.7. The 20,000-mile oil's TBN seems a little bit low for an oil that promises to offer better wear protection against sludge than the 10,000-mile oils. Turbocharged engines, or engines with gasoline direct injection, oftentimes experience fuel-contaminated oil, especially during extended oil change intervals of over 10,000 miles. So let's contaminate the 20,000-mile oil with 5% gasoline. Let's see how the fuel-contaminated oil performs on the lubricity tester. And the gasoline really thinned out the motor oil, and it's definitely having a negative impact on the oil's performance. And the watt meter is definitely starting out higher compared to the uncontaminated motor oil, so there's definitely more wear taking place. The test pin on the left is for the 20,000-mile oil without fuel contamination, and the one on the right is for the fuel-contaminated 20,000-mile oil. And the test pin for the fuel-contaminated motor oil has a 6% larger wear scar. So the most expensive contaminated oil actually has a larger wear scar compared to the 5,000-mile synthetic blend. So which motor oil is best? And the high-mileage 10,000-mile oil came out on top with an average
Here every day, guys.
However,
Here every day.
10,000 and 20,000-mile full synthetic
Well, almost every
finished
day. I
in
wasn't
third,
here
fourth,
yesterday.
second, and third place respectively. So is the 5-quart container
Almost
of
every
the
day.
20,000-mile oil worth the extra $4 over the full synthetic 10,000-mile oils? In my opinion, the 20,000-mile oil is pretty close to the same as the 10,000-mile oils, and I just wouldn't spend the extra money on it. So would I use the SuperTech 20,000-mile oil for 20,000 miles in my vehicle? Absolutely not.
No.
In my opinion, that's taking on a lot of risk, and there's a good chance it'll cause a lot of wear to the engine. Having said that, I do like the 10 and 20,000 mile oils that SuperTech makes. However, I just wouldn't trust them for more than about 5,000 or 6,000 miles. I'd really like to hear your thoughts on extended oil change intervals. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are
my oil's supposed to be rated for, I think, 15,000 miles, and on the containers they say they're 10,000 miles, which is why I do 8 and 9-ish, and I think I'm, pretty safe as far as that goes, so. Yeah, there's a lot of people who are like, nope, you can't do that. I disagree with if you're going full synthetic, but I wouldn't go to 20,000 miles for sure. But I'd do 10. I think I'd do 10, especially 8. Return to the oil testing. Should ask him to do a adult lube test. Although April Fool's kind of passed. Adult, what's another name for lubrication to make things sound more professional? KY jelly. I mean, KY jelly is actually probably pretty bad. It's also, I guess it's water-based. Sexual lubricants, no. Adult freakiness. There's like none of this, by the way, and some of adult lubricants are fucking terrible. Like, they're really bad. No one tests this shit. Sex is usually the lowest hanging fruit, mind you. It's the thing that no one no one gives a shit about. Like the adult industry in general is something no one gives a shit about. Lots of low-hanging fruit with basically bare minimum effort to actually make something that's good. Sadly. There's a lot of money to be made there too. Like there's tons of people care about sex. Personal lubricant. Adult lubricants. Well, it might not appeal to your entire viewer base. I think some of us would appreciate methodical, empirical. That's the word. Methodical, empirical. It's E, not like empire. Scientific approach to testing I mean, most of his testing he probably could do with adult lubricants, so while it might not appeal to your entire viewer base, I think some of us would appreciate a methodical, empirical, scientific approach to testing what is essentially a joke to a lot of people. What is essentially a joke. A joke. Methodical, empirical, scientific approach to testing what isn't taken. Methodical, empirical, scientific approach to testing what isn't taken seriously. To testing something taken seriously. The idea is not to make it a joke, but rather something that would possibly be seen as a suggestion, even though it's kind of a joke. See what happens. I mean, maybe. I mean, as long as you wouldn't necessarily need to put a dildo in the test, but you could. I mean, they have what is it called? Cyberflesh or whatever. Like, there's actually brand names that's supposed to duplicate human flesh, and you could rub them against each other and see what gels up and stuff. But I don't know. We'll see. You might just find it funny, or he's gonna find it offensive. I'll throw it in there. I think he was in the army, so you probably find it funny. Okay. All right, guys. Let's move along. Oh, I need to do an upload. Last stream. It's on the 9th, 8th. We're gonna have like 2 viewers, guys. Oh my god, 2 views. Oh my god, it has 10 views. Holy shit, there's 10 views on the video. That's crazy. 15. Jesus Christ, guys, we're trending. We're gonna be on TikTok. Yeah. Don't spam my subscribers. I mean... Watch. Yeah. That was technically like 3 days ago, because I didn't stream yesterday. Watch 2. Prior to Easter stream. Mind you guys, I don't even have videos being... And I don't really make special content. Well, I kind of do make a little bit of special content while I snip it out of my VODs for YouTube. But I'm not a tuber. So the very fact that people are actually watching my full streams is actually pretty impressive in and of itself. And it's actually a disservice that I have not uploaded to YouTube prior to last year. August, where I started uploading my archive stuff. Yeah. It's actually something I should have done years ago, and I didn't. Even though because I've been streaming for 10 years, so. Alright, let's take a look at the Reddit, see what's going on here, and go from there. We covered the Overwatch patch. Oh, this is a new one? Another new one. What is this? Covered this already. I guess it's like a beta update. So I believe this patch goes live tomorrow. I don't know, I guess maybe they changed something in here. What's the difference between this and last week's ones they released? Bloated Mercy. About submitted 4 days ago. April 11th. This is the one from last week. This is on Friday. So it's going live today. Okay, there's nothing new there. When you don't care about battle passes... Something I've done. Good. Somber cosplay. Oh my god. Is it lewd? Not really. No booty. Clothing's not tight enough. I don't know if that's pre-bought or something they made. If they made it, it's pretty impressive. If it's pre-bought, not really so. Store-bought. Was something that can happen the first 30 seconds of the match makes you go, oh, it's going to be one of those matches when Widow headshots like 2 people in a row. Especially when the moment you fly up, you get insta-killed. Yeah. You're like, huh, okay.